Major international airlines have canceled and modified hundreds of flights due to concern over the rollout of 5G service. The Federal Aviation Administration has warned that the much-hyped high-speed wireless service could interfere with aircraft technology. AT&T and Verizon announced they've delayed launching 5G near some airports after airlines and President Biden intervened. And joining us to discuss the cause for concern and more are Randy Berry, a professor of electrical and computer engineering at Northwestern University, and Joseph Sweeterman, transportation specialist and professor at DePaul University. Welcome to both of you. Randy Berry, first off, remind us what 5G or fifth generation wireless technology is.
So this is the next iteration of the technology underlying your cell phone. So currently, most of us have 4G or LTE cell phones. 5G is the next version of that. It's offering higher data rates and some other enhanced features.
And of course, it's because it's using a certain spectrum of radio frequency. And Joe, in short, why are airlines so concerned about cell phone companies using this so-called C-band spectrum?
We can see our tolerance for risk of air travel has fallen, where risks just are not seen as acceptable. And here we had some unknowns for the airlines. It reminds me of the debate over cell phone calls at high altitude, which our country decided not to do because of just some lingering uncertainty. Here we had a massive rollout of a 5G program, by two big providers, Verizon, AT&T, and the airlines had not been given credible evidence that there wasn't going to be interference and low visibility landing. So you multiply that by the number of flights we have per day, and the risk was just seen as unacceptable.
So the concern here is the altimeter, which obviously pilots rely on to land in low visibility. And Randy Berry, how much evidence is there that cellular use in this spectrum, in this RF spectrum, will impact those altimeters?
I would say I haven't seen a lot of hard evidence. I think there's a lot of discussion about what might be possible. These bands are separated. There's about the 200 megahertz guard band between the C band and what the altimeters use. And a big question is, is that enough? I think the FCC and the wireless providers tend to think it is. The airlines obviously do not, right?
And Joe Sweeterman, today they put a pause. They all agreed to a pause in the 5G rollout around certain airports. Which airports are we talking about? What are the parameters of this pause now?
Well, this was a remarkable thing because we had almost a game of chicken in the media where both sides were elevating the rhetoric about mass chaos in the air and so forth. And the compromise being we're going to not deploy it at certain airports had us hopeful that we could avoid the chaos today. And international airlines just felt that the cutbacks didn't give them enough assurance. So really airlines flying the 777, which is a big plane retrofitted usually to about 550 seats, scrambled to find a different kind of airplane when they felt that the risks were less. And boy, lots of cancellations because of just the ambiguity in the air right now.
All right, well, let's hear concerns from the head of the Allied Pilots Union, Dennis Tager, who will pilot obviously himself. He weighed in with us earlier today.
I may go to an airport like Chicago LaGuardia is going to likely be protected airports. But if I have to divert somewhere for an equipment issue or weather's not good at either place, I'm going to go to a 5G airport. I've got a lot to look at and a lot of distractions that we really feel are unnecessary. They're trying to just roll us out, again, in a metered way, which is better than fulsome, like they were talking about, and say, hey, Captain, let us know if there are any issues. That's not how we do business in the U.S. aviation world.
Randall Berry, what needs to be resolved during this pause to make folks like Captain Tager feel comfortable?
So coming back, I think the question is, does the interference leak over in a significant amount around these airports where 5G is deployed, that it would cause these altimeters not to work correctly? And I think there needs to be more testing. There needs to be more studies of that to make people feel confident.
And Joe Sweeterman, it's not a new thing because Verizon, AT&T, they spent something like, what, $80 billion for the right to use this frequency to launch 5G. So why are these concerns coming to a head now when it's rolling out?
There is, Mark, where 21 companies, $81 billion spent. They want to see a return on their investment. And the FAA did allow a push for deployment to be delayed a couple weeks, but that just brought us to now where we're back to where we were. And I think we're seeing that so the ball dropped really with the federal government not to space this out, to have credible testing. And I think what's really sad about this is just the number of passengers that were disrupted during this. I mean, some upwards of 32,000 passengers on Emirates alone have been affected by this. So why this brinkmanship didn't happen a month ago with the phased rollout really is on the minds of a lot of people that this didn't do any service to our national world aviation system.
Right, because as you mentioned, the international flights, especially flying the 777, are the ones canceling flights and worried about what this means for them. Randall Berry, tell us more about 5G. I mean, the proponents in the telecom industry say it's going to spur more self-driving cars. It's going to revolutionize healthcare. How does that connect to all these big advances?
So to support those big advances, you need more data rate. You need to be able to support higher data rates, and for that you need more spectrum, and that's what led to the C-band being one of the bands. So it's one of many bands that 5G uses. It's not the only one. But that's a key ingredient to realize those promises that you're talking about.
Joe Sweeterman, if you had to guess, will there be a resolution here that makes everybody happy? I mean, one of the things I've read about is, well, they all want to wait for these older altimeters to retire, and newer altimeters won't face the same kind of problem of interference.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, what we see here is there's a lot of pathways to keep the aviation system running while still benefiting 5G. I mean, for one, most of the problem are towers within 2 miles of an airport. I mean, that's a pretty small window. I also think the FAA is fast certifying certain planes that aren't at risk. Why that didn't happen a few weeks ago, I don't know, but they're doing it today. So airlines feel comfortable with certain equipment, and even the 777 might be okay. So I think we'll see a frenzied effort with some compromise, but it is a shame it got to this level with, from what I can tell, at least 4 or 5 big international planes canceled into Chicago today. So there's some pain being felt.
All right, so a lot of catching up to do in the air travel industry, and we'll watch how this resolves. Our thanks to Randy Berry and Joe Sweeterman. Thanks so much.
Thank you.